All right, here we go back with another episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast. And today we are talking about a topic that in the 90 some odd episodes of the Dealer Playbook we have not yet addressed. I'm joined today by Mr. David Villa from IPD, Imperial Press Direct. And he's going to be talking to us about direct mail, tips, tricks, strategies, and some common mistakes that you should avoid. All that and more in this episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast. Here we go. Well, let's face it, we've never actually dug deep on this topic here on the Dealer Playbook. So, welcoming now to the show, Mr. David Villa. Thanks so much for joining me on DPB.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks a lot for having me.
It's almost, dude, I'm feeling deja vu right now.
Me too.
Yeah, so I feel like we've done this before, but I want to just kick this off because I think there's a lot of questions, especially this day and age with the advancing popularity of digital and how a lot of dealers are continuously migrating budget out of quote unquote traditional into digital. There is still a place for what we call traditional marketing. And especially when it comes to, direct mailers and direct mail pieces. In past episodes of the show, we've kind of touched on it. We've said, hey, look, there's an effectiveness here when it comes to direct mail because it's hitting a mailbox and there's so much or there's so little clutter there now because everyone's going online. But I want to turn this over to you. When it comes to direct mail, what are some of the hesitations that dealers are having? And what are some of the, successes that dealers should be thinking now, hey, I need to get back into the mailbox?
Yeah, great question. Well, thanks for having me, Mike. And I'm passionate about direct mail. It's not only something I do for a living. I'm just extremely passionate about it. I've watched it work over the years. However, I would say direct mail by itself, I'll go as far as calling it a dinosaur when it's left alone, if it's by itself. Matter of fact, a couple years ago, I wrote an article in Dealer Solutions magazine, I think probably 3 years ago now, called Facing Extinction, direct mail. And if we don't do something about it, it would face extinction. Now, I think dealers' apprehensions, I think there's multiple things. I mean, it could go anywhere from, I've tried it. And again, that's like me saying I've tried steak, but what I really tried was steak them, in that I've never really had a steak. But I'm judging, you're presenting steak to me based on what I've had. And I think that maybe there's an element of direct mail in the past, especially that has more of a moocher, kind of like gift seeker type of person. I think dealers, kind of their team, salesmen, saleswomen kind of, avoid that customer, kind of cherry pick, don't like that type of, weeding through. So I think that, I'll say this. I think there's a lot of that element. The moocher, gift seeker type, and I think that I think dealers, salesmen stay away from that. And I think that possibly there's that perception. So I think that's a big deal. Why I quote you said dealers stay away from it. However, at the same time, I think that dealers are pressured, rightly so. We're in a digital world, and I think they feel the pressure to possibly go digital, but I don't think they really know what that means. And I think they've abandoned direct mail. And I think that there's a place for direct mail. I think that a lot of companies that refuse to change, unable to change, are eliminating themselves. And I think that not only has the mailbox decluttered, I think that the competition when it comes to automotive direct mail vendors has decluttered. I think there's a lot of people that are gone. They've left the game, and they needed to. They needed to hang up their old saturation, spray and pray type of programs. And but it opens the door for an alternative and a product that's going to get into the mailbox, because every person in America, every person has one. At the same time, it's going to involve ways in which today's customer would prefer to respond. And so I think there's a huge place for direct mail, and I think that the challenges that maybe some dealers face, to me, and I mean this sincerely, my sales team, our company, we like to see ourselves as someone who likes to have that customer, because when they say I don't like direct mail, sincerely, not flippantly, sincerely, our response is neither do we. And let me show you, show you the difference. And so I think it's a huge opportunity.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I was reading a case study, and I mean, this was a Canadian case study, so the numbers are going to be a lot less, I think. But our National Postal Service polled, I think, 1,200 people, and this was specific to automotive. Asked them what, I guess, effectiveness a direct mail piece had on their purchase decision, and you know what? Surprisingly, 37% said that in some way, shape, or form, one of the reasons that they decided to take that next step and walk onto the lot was because they saw advertising that came into their mailbox. And like I said earlier, in past episodes of the show, we've talked about this, how, everybody's migrated online and now there's saturation online and dealers are finding it, somewhat difficult to kind of rise above the clutter there, and how a great strategy now is to get back into the mailbox. I know, speaking for myself, my mailbox is not in front of my house. It's one of those, combined units. I got to walk out to the street. And so there's a good 2 minutes from the time I get my mail to the time I walk back to my house, and and I'm looking through these things, and there's this tactile, I guess, opportunity I have here to put my hands on something, look at it, think about it long enough to determine whether or not the message resonates with me or not. So with that, though, I know there are probably likely dealers out there, businesses out there, who have invested in a direct mail advertising campaign and perhaps have not seen the results. I want to kind of turn this to that be, and is there a better way to target an audience? I mean, especially, because I think with traditional, a lot of people think spray and pray. Well, it's going out to everybody that gets the newspaper, or it's going out to everybody that gets mail. But how do I make this more strategic? How do I make it more targeted?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that great question, and I think that's multifaceted. The answer is just broken down into multiple different components, and I'll try to tackle some of the ones I think are pretty important. First of all, I'm a huge believer in digital. I mean, you and I have had conversation. I know that obviously, we're in a digital age, and it's a necessity. And here's the one thing I'll point out. I mean, I'm not naive enough to think, and nor do I myself or you or anyone get up anymore. My grandmother, God bless her soul, used to tell me every year, have you written thank you cards for, the birthday presents I've gotten, have you written your thank you cards yet? So, I mean, I'm not going to sit down to any type of offer I get and write back a letter. I mean, that's just not what we're going to do. We're going to go on to and choose to respond via convenience, whether I'm going to shoot somebody a text message, I'm going to shoot an email, I'm going to go on to Twitter and say something really short, or make a post on Facebook. So, I mean, we all get that. However, I think that there's a difference between the way we want to communicate and the way we want to be advertised to. I think there's a huge difference. And I think that one of the reasons the statistics and they're high in America as well, people enjoy receiving advertisements through direct mail. There's a couple of reasons. Number one, it is something that is still a time frame that people look forward to. I mean, when I go home, even myself, and I'm in the direct mail business, so when I go home, I walk my dogs, or I stand outside and I look at the mailbox and I think, what? I wonder if my wife checked the mail. And I walk out and I check the mail. You kind of look forward to it. It's just something that even today people look forward to. And then it's going to make the threshold into the home entry. It's going to make that entry to the home, and you're going to carry it in. And that's the thing that an advertiser dreams of, the message in the home. And I think that that's another reason that it's successful. I think where we have to, as marketers, realize the difference lies is we have to it's what they're going to do with that message. It's now, are we going to offer the ability for them to respond in a convenient way for 2016 and beyond? And that's really where most people in general have dropped the ball when it comes to direct mail. It's not just getting the message in the home. Quite frankly, that's advertising in general. I mean, if I'm going to put out a nice looking television spot, or if I'm going to put out some sort of video on the internet, I mean, right, what is my response path? Not just, if not, then it's just image awareness. If not, I'm going to watch the commercial over and over and over again 1,000 times. And then when I go to think of, I want a hamburger, McDonald's, or whatever it is, image awareness. But, what's going to move the needle today? And So I think that that's a big issue, a big topic, a big point when it comes to direct mail advertising. What are you going to do with that message? And I think that the mailbox is a great place. It is less competitive today than it used to be. And if your message is right, going back to what you said about spray and pray, I think that in our industry especially, there's the temptation, the attraction sometimes to offers that could be quite cheesy. And I think that has no place whatsoever. I don't care what kind of advertising you're doing, but if you can get a legitimate message to a targeted audience, whether that's a credit audience, a conquest audience, my database, if I'm going after similar makes and models, comparable, whatever that message is. I'm going to put it in the right hands. And if that message is in the right hands and it's a message that deserves a response, if the person that needed it saw it, then I've got to, A, put it in their hands, then B, I've got to make it where they can respond in multiple ways. And that's kind of where, we've taken direct mail. We've taken direct mail to a place where we want to give them as many opportunities to respond in as many different ways as possible.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because it just brought up a thought process here for me. Is the only objective of direct mail to make an offer or to get some sort of action, or can you run a direct mail piece as an awareness play that ties into some other, something online or a video you want them to watch? Or I mean, is that an effective approach, or is it more lower funnel? Hey, here's the offer. We want you to take action.
I think it would work either way. I think so it's not whether or not it would work one way versus the other. Let's just take our industry, obviously the automotive industry, for instance, dealerships, it's a profitable industry. They make, let's just say the average dealer is somewhere, between $200 and $2,500 a copy, on maybe the middle of the road credit. So if they can sell, 30 cars, and let's say they make $2,000 a copy, they're going to make $60,000, not counting holdback and what have you. And that's going to be a profitable 60 cars. Well, or 30 cars, if that direct mail piece, can generate 30 cars, then obviously that's what it's designed to do. So the reason I think that I lean towards a shot in the arm or a 2-week or 3-week type influx of 30 cars is because of the cost of direct mail. It could be a brand awareness. I think any type of advertising can be that way. The problem is repetition, causes recognition, in my opinion, when it comes to brand awareness. So, you have to have something on a consistent, repetitive basis. The negative, I guess, if there is one on direct mail when it comes to trying to use it as an image awareness, it's one time. It does have a shelf life. So it does stay there, but it only impacts one time, where maybe a flight of commercials or a flight of radio spots or whatever you're going to do, or internet spots, what have you, or Facebook ads, it's going to target in a repetitive fashion. So I think that an offer is incredibly important, no matter what you're doing. I think that goes, by the way, with digital. I think that I see Facebook ads, I see YouTube ads, I see all types of digital ads that are misplaced in my opinion. They're the wrong ad in the wrong place, and or the wrong ad in the right place. It could be the right place, but I think it's misplaced sometimes. So therefore, even if you ran 100 of them, digitally, I think that the ad itself is not designed to force the market. And I just think that it's something we need to think through. And here's the thing about dealerships, and this is one of the things that, just on a side note, Mike, bringing it up, I think that it's a marketer's responsibility, that understand the auto business to serve their clients well and understand this and give this information to their clients when they're consulting with them. Because ultimately, if you're in it to help your clients, then I think you need to really understand how best to help your clients. And I think that if we as marketers, because dealers look to us and they go, hey, what do I do? What do I do? You're the marketer. I'm going to give it. And so I think the message is extremely important. And is it designed to force the market? Is it designed to bring, image awareness? Is it designed, and that's important. And I think cost is a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where it comes down to actually having a strategy outlined and saying, okay, well, here's how the direct mail piece is going to fit in. Here's how the web piece is going to fit in. Here's how, your pre-roll ads or your Facebook ads are going to fit in. But making sure that, like you said, as the marketer, that is all detailed. It's placed in front of the dealer so that they can see all of that information and how it all ties into one another. And ultimately, at the end of the day, going to make it a lot easier for them to track ROI because they know how it was all pieced together.
Absolutely.
So, so when it comes to making an offer, I guess knowing the audience that you're targeting is going to be a big thing. But what are some other things that dealers should be focused on when it comes to optimizing an offer?
Yeah, great point. I think that the dealership needs to understand their mission, their vision, their strategies, and I think that they can't conflict. I mean, and I think committing is a big deal. So if a dealership, for instance, is there's a group of dealerships that do an extremely good job at mining their data. It's proven that if you don't, the statistics from NADA show a very low, even today, a very low amount of dealerships compared to the whole actually effectively mine their database. Still today, even though it's a higher number than it was 5 years ago, it's still low comparably. I think everyone should be mining their data 100%. Now, here's the flip side of that. Flip side of that is it works, and dealers have a tendency to jump on what works and ride it into the ground. So then you have companies that want to make money off of that, and I'm talking about direct mail companies that specialize in that.
Right.
They're not going to tell the dealer that you don't need to be mining your database at maximum once every 4 months. I mean, you don't need to be doing it. So a dealer will, again, hey, that worked really, really good. I sold 50 cars. I want to do it again. And, money are coming to play. Well, so I think that mining your data is a big deal. I think that if the dealership is strong in the credit recovery, I think there's a difference between the secondary finance, subprime, and credit recovery. I think credit recovery is still this customer that maybe several years ago would have been a 700 beacon and above. And through the economic situation we went through, maybe lost their job, maybe lost their home, went through some sort of scenario where they fell from graces of credit, high, and they don't know what to do. They're not a credit criminal. They're not somebody who, spent their life, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and they're driving the same vehicle. I think that's a credit recovery customer that if they get an offer and they're aware that they exist, they will respond to it. And then there's the subprime. I think dealerships that have the right lenders and banks on board, and that's an established, they have the right finance, manager that can hang paper. I think that that's an incredibly profitable source, and that can be targeted in a highly effective manner. So I think that it really depends on what you're going after when it comes to that. I think that I really, really think that all dealers, need to avoid. I don't really think there's a place for this saturation, balloons and big burst and, push, pull, and drag. I don't really think there's a place for that. Even if it brings some traffic in, is it conflicting with your store's message? I mean, you don't need traffic that bad. If you do, you need a marketing overhaul in general, probably. So I think that is damaging. I don't think that it's sustaining. And so other than that, I think that messaging and targeting, I think credit, conquest, database, comparable makes and models through vehicle exchange, different types of, legitimate buybacks, through maybe Black or Kelly Blue Book, realistic offers, not like just old school, but, really looking at those. I think that these are messages that are highly targeted and offer a legitimate message to a consumer. And if they're facilitated correctly and tracked, I think you're going to get great ROI.
Okay, and you just said the key word. I by the way, I say this every episode, but I'm sitting here taking notes. Tracking, a crucial piece. Aside from somebody walking through the doors of the dealership or walking onto the lot and saying, oh yeah, we got this flyer or this coupon or this whatever, this mail piece in our mailbox, what are some ways that we can effectively track this? Because I know this is traditionally a challenge that dealers face when it comes to print any is the tracking of it. So are there advancements in technology that allow us to do this better? Or are there different strategies that allow us to track the effectiveness of our advertising?
Sure. With us, and I'll be very careful not to put any type of commercial out there, but I'm just saying with us, absolutely. It's a non-negotiable. And I think it should be with a dealership's plan for direct mail. So I think, first of all, find a company that believes in that and wholeheartedly believes in that. So to start with, yes, I think it has to be built into and baked into the program from the very get-go, meaning that, again, our program, which is called Mailology, which is the art and science of direct mail, and, it's baked in. And I think that it has to be established from the get-go. So in an era where 30% of a product is direct mail in our product and 70% not, you're talking about it going into the mailbox, and then everything that happens from that point on is tracked. And here's my philosophy. My philosophy is I believe in it. So if I believe in it, then I'm not going to run from an ROI. I want the ROI. In the 10% chance or 7% chance, that the ROI comes back not in my favor because maybe just it was the wrong timing, maybe it was the wrong message, maybe it was the wrong market, what have you. Hey, so be it. But in 90 to 93% of the time, we're going to see a positive ROI, because if you do everything you say you're going to do, and you have a product that's that's legit, it's going to work. So I think that ROI is absolutely essential, and I think it has to be established from the get-go. If for instance, you're always talking to the decision maker, whatever that position is. If that position is a dealer principal, a general manager, general sales manager, a marketing director, whoever makes that decision to spend that budget, if they have that ability or the power of the pen, then their job is on the line with the results, give or take at some point. So that person cares. If it's the owner, they really care. And so here's what we try to do up front. When we sign a dealer up with a program, and I would challenge dealers to make sure that your mail company does this, train and get your managers on board, because I've seen often enough over the 20 years, a decision maker buys a product because they have an ad budget. They're not ad professionals. They're just general managers and good car people that have a budget to spend. They spend it, and that's it. And a lot of times it's like, okay, if I had a good weekend around the time your mail hit, I'm giving you credit for it. If I didn't, I'm not. And that's not good enough. So we personally reach out and get the management team, the people who are going to facilitate the deals, the people who are going to desk the deals, the people who are going to BDC managers, internet directors. We reach out and gather them and get them on board after a dealership commits to it. So we do a whole training where we say, hey, this is how it's going to work. This is what you can expect. And then we go a step further. We actually, after the management team's on board, say, hey, we'd like to do a kickoff meeting, virtual kickoff meeting. Obviously, we're not there, with your salespeople a day before the mail's scheduled to hit. So we can get your salespeople, 10, 20, 30, 5, how many ever in the room. We get them and we let them know very short, 15 minutes, what to expect to get ready to see this type of customer. Because it's at the ground level, when that salesperson is out smoking a cigarette on the point, hiding from the next person that walks in, or, the BDC person is, grooming these phone calls in or not really calling them back or whatever.
Yeah.
It's where it's made or it's a make or break scenario. So
which is helpful because it bridges the gap between the mail piece going out and the sales team not knowing that something's going on, and everyone's heightened awareness in store to make sure that they're on their game and talking to people and asking them if they saw it and all those sorts of things.
And one other thing too, Mike, you'd be amazed at how just the involvement, and it should be done. It should be insisted from the decision maker's standpoint. I have it do it all the time. We spend money on a product that we integrate into our system, or we spend money on what have you in our call center. My management team is on board. I bring them in. A lot of times I hand it off to them after I make the introduction and let them completely handle it because I want their buy-in. So you'd be amazed, at the buy-in that occurs when they're involved. And all of a sudden, they're taking ownership, and it's just so simple. So I think that that's really the key from the beginning. Everybody's aware of it. And then they also know that everything is tracked. We're going to know how many people responded, how many people set an appointment, how many credit apps came in. We're going to know how many ads for Facebook, how many people clicked on their ads, whatever. So we do that. And then at the end, they know in advance that at the end, we're going to ask for, sold numbers from their DMS during the sale time frame so that we can tell them how many cars they sold.
Yeah. Well, what I love about this too is and we sense this a lot, not just in this industry, but in marketing and advertising in general, is it's not just the thing that gets the results. It's having a process in play for the people involved in the store or in the establishment to be involved as well. And all of those things combined create the measure of success that they're going to have with that campaign.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, totally.
I want to say just one real quick thing that I just thought about. we have close to 50 people that work here, about 7 people on our marketing team. We bring in interns a lot of times in the summer as well. We had an intern last year that was actually a friend of my son's. He went to college with her, and she came in to intern in our marketing. She's a marketing major, and she was 20 years old, maybe 21 years old then. And we were, Dealer Solutions Magazine. She asked me after about 2 months here, can I write an article? She just helped with social media and things like that. And she never really paid attention to direct mail. She couldn't remember a time based on her article that she didn't have email and so forth. And she wrote an article called Direct Mail from the Eyes of a Millennial. And it's a fascinating article. We've had 4,000 or 5,000 online reads of it. And she blew my mind with her perspective. Wasn't trying to impress anybody. She's not here now. I mean, she's moved on. And she wrote an article saying, as a millennial, how she gets digital advertising. She can't even go on the internet to search, without getting bombarded digitally, and that she sees a step into back possibly into direct mail as a plus and a benefit, and how she reminisces of her father bringing the mail in and putting it on the counter and going through it. And it was just really a neat perspective. And I think that I just think there's a huge place for it. But I think that it not evolve, it will be extinct. And there's an element of it that needs to die, and we need to build from that.
Does the direct mail piece as a best practice, should it, I guess, correspond with OEM advertising? I mean, should we be leveraging the millions upon millions of dollars that OEMs are advertising, or should it be something that's very unique to the store? Or, hey, this is marketing, test something. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, this is I'm on both sides of the fence of this for two different reasons. I mean, we're on several approved vendor lists, OEM, approved list, and at the same time, very similar, we're on several public and large, groups, public and private. The top 6, we're on 3 or 4 of their approved vendor lists. So, and I'm blessed and privileged to be there. However, and so we do business because somebody's going to do it, and so why not? Why not it be us? And so we have a department that handles that, and we're very blessed for that. However, my opinion on that, in dealing majority of my dealings with dealers on the ground, they don't like it, and they'll do it because it's free. They'll do it because it's cheap. They'll do it because maybe their rep kind of leans on them to do it, but they don't like to do it because they view it as as so overly saturated with co-op information and manufacturer information that the customer is inundated already with it, and it has really no real push. Maybe some of the offers are weak, and so they look at it as a waste of money. My opinion is that at the OEM level, there could be a whole rehaul if the right ear was bended. Direct mail is very effective, but they can take their dollars that they spend, which are millions of dollars on direct mail. I mean, we have so much business that comes in from this source. They could take that if they had the right ear, if they listen to the right ear or the right person, and they could shift those dollars, and the message could be shifted, and it could be far more effective because their goal is obviously to move vehicles. Sure. So a lot of times you'll find that dealers will take this co-op money to this extent, and they'll try to manipulate it to sell used cars instead of new cars. Meaning that they look at the dollars and they're trying to make the message bend to sell vehicles in general, which benefits the dealer but not the OEM. So it tells you the message needs to change. So I think that, and I think that's one of the things, Mike, to be honest, that could give direct mail a bad name to a dealer because it adds to the statistics that determine whether or not something's effective or ineffective. And it just because it looks pretty, just because it looks gorgeous and it has all the slickness to an advertisement, doesn't mean it's effective. It doesn't mean it works. So on both sides of the coin on that. I mean, I think it could be more effective, and I'd love to see it more effective because I want to see more cars sold.
David, you mentioned that this is not the single thing that you should be doing, but that to make it most effective, it should play in or funnel into an overarching strategy. And of course, it should all be tracked and measured so that you can therefore optimize it. So in winding down here, thanks so much for being on the show. How can our guests get in touch with you and learn more about direct mail?
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. And this is where I will kind of give maybe a short commercial on this aspect because the dealers, my experience with dealers, 20 years of servicing dealerships in multiple different facets, they want it They want it easy. So if something sounds too complicated, seems too complicated, they may not do it.
Yeah.
And I don't blame you. I don't want to do that either. So I will tell you that if this sounds complicated, this strategy, linking it together, joining, what have you, then it can be that way. So get somebody to do it for you. We have a package called Mailology, the art and science of direct mail. We've evolved it, and I used to tell dealers this. We evolved it from one strategy and one strategy only. How over 20 years I've heard dealers talk about what they hate about direct mail. I had got really tired of a 50% retention rate when we did everything we said we were going to do, because that's just what direct mail gets. Today we have a 95% retention rate. So I challenge dealers to reach out. Mailology, our company is IPD, Imperial Press Direct, but we shorten it to IPD based on going into digital marketing as well as training and media. IPDmail.com. You can reach out to me directly. My email address is david@ipdmail.com, and I'd be happy to sit down and talk to you and share with you. And if I can't help you, I'll be the first to tell you that maybe we're the wrong fit, but hopefully we could be.
David, man, thanks so much for joining me on the show today.
Hey, Mike, thanks so much for the invitation, man. I look forward to seeing you hopefully in Vegas.
All right, that was David Villa talking about the power of direct mail and the role that it can play in your marketing mix. Now, one of the things that stood out to me that David said is that, direct mail is a piece of the marketing mix. It's not the be all end all. So I hope, those of you listening or watching aren't just saying, oh man, we got to put all our money into direct mail. That one makes sense. Think about getting into people's mailboxes. Like you heard David say, everybody has a mailbox, everybody. And therefore, it's a simple way that you can get back into their field of view. And with the right offer for the right audience, you can compel them or move them to engage them and have them show intent. If you enjoyed this episode of the Dealer Playbook, I would love a like down below or a comment. If you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, I would love a review. I'm going to link you up to David in the show notes so you can get more information about the power of direct mail at www.thedealerplaybook.com/96.